0 in Heat 5 is Erin Lee for Nova Centurion. Mia Copping of Lincoln Vulcans goes in 1. 2, Leah Bromwich for Corby. Darcy Platts for the City of Leicester in 3. 4, Arabella Green for Repton. 5 is Bryony Lowe for the City of Leicester. Rebecca Darrington of Radford in 6. 7, Millie King of Derby XL. 8, Jessica O'Herlihy for South Links. 9 is Evie Turner for Grantham. Into the final 25 of Heat 5 of this 100 freestyle. And at 15, there could be 3 or 4 swimmers who might get here first. Lane 4, Arabella Green, could be first into the wall. I think she is. That finish time for her, 102.26. Rebecca Darrington just behind with a 62.57. And Jessica O'Herlihy, again, in the 62 margin. 4 swimmers under 63. And only 0.5 of a second between Darrington in second and O'Herlihy in third. As we come now to heat number 6, starting to get now into swimmers we're expecting to swim 61s. We did see that very fast 61 in lane 4. Swimmer got a little bit early there. Happens sometimes. We'll of course, the rule in swimming is that you are only able to have one start. So in that situation, as you've just seen, lane 8, which was Phoebe Barden, has gone off a little bit too early and been disqualified for a false start before anybody else could leave the blocks. The swimmers then in 6. Lucy Cadden is in 0 for Derby XL. Katie Hammond for the Uni of Notts in 1. 2 is Grace Wingham for Kettering. 3, Helen Sharratt for Derby Phoenix. 4, Shay Stewart for Nova Centurion. Amelia Cheschik of Northampton in 5. 6 is Olivia Hunter for the City of Leicester. Bassett Law's Rachel Webb goes in 7. And 9 is Katie Founds for the City of Lincoln. I think lane 2, Grace Wingham, was over first, and a 29 point, and also a 29 point from Helen Sharratt in lane 3. As we come into the finish, and the touch there came from Helen Sharratt in lane 3, 61.31. Grace Wingham 3 tenths of a second behind. And then Olivia Hunter in lane 6 was third, 61.84 for the City of Leicester swimmer. So as I said, seeing 4 61-point swims in heat 6. And with one heat to the next, we go to 7. And the entry times in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these 10 swimmers all enter on a 1 minute point swim. So could see a sub-minute swim in this heat 7, or maybe just a little bit outside the 60-second barrier for these swimmers. Anybody that did get under the minute would be on PB pace or below. Holly Lamb of the City of Leicester in 0. Alyssa Lowe for the City of Leicester in 1. Chloe Goodridge for Northampton in 2. Kira Fletcher for Nova Centurion in 3. 4, Charlotte Wright for Louth. 5 is Emily Parkins for Nova Centurion. 6, Lily Freeman for Northampton. 7, Ruse Gubbins for Nova Centurion. 8 is Eve Turnbull for Carlton Forum. 9 is Elise Kendall for Corby. Well, it seems to be the outside 2 swimmers. Holly Lamb in 0. Elise Kendall in 9, swimming well or first into the turn at halfway. First into the wall was Elise Kendall right on the outside in lane 9. 1 minute 1 minute 0.97 for the Corby swimmer. 1:01.10 for Chloe Goodridge to touch third. Eve Turnbull was second with a 1:01.02, so only 5 100ths between first and second, and then only another 8 100ths into third place. Just 13 100ths between first and third in Heat 7. We go on to Heat 8 now, the first of the cyclically seeded heats, and this means that the fastest swimmer in the meet goes into lane 4 of the final heat, which will come in 3 heats time. The third fastest swimmer will go into lane 4 of this heat, and that is Laurie Devine for Repton. The other swimmers in Heat 8 are B. Jones for the City of Leicester in 0, Olivia Han for Repton in 1, Alicia Massey for Repton in 2. 3 is Alexandra Bulett for the City of Lincoln Pentaqua, Laurie Devine of Repton in 4. 5, Emma Crocker for South Links. 6 is Francesca Whiting for the Uni of Nottingham in 7, Molly Marshall for Repton. 8, Sophie de Groot for Loughborough Uni. 9, Tia Gardner for Loughborough Uni. We will expect swimmers to go under a minute here, and look at lane 8 flying out there. Sophie de Groot from Loughborough Uni enters on a minute 0.39. I don't have it to hand, but that is most likely her best time. What is her finish time? Because she came into the wall first there. It is under the minute, 57.09 for Sophie de Groot. That is a massive improvement on her entry time, and it's going to put her in really good stead to get into tonight's final. And not only get into tonight's final, she should get in a decent lane with a 57.09. Considering that second there was 57.98, almost a full second between first and second. Third, 58.2 for Alexandra Bulett. It was Laurie Devine, I should say, in second. Laurie Devine qualified for the Priority Paris final at British Champs, actually, in the last heat, and came 7th there. I should also mention Emma Croker in that heat was 3rd at regionals in 2022. Meanwhile, Heat 9 is away. 0 is Holly Robinson for Repton. In 1, Georgie Reynolds for Repton. 2, Iona Colbert for Nova Centurion. 3, Grace Conroy for Repton. 4, Amy Davies for the Uni of Nottingham. 5 is Mia Slevin for Loughborough Uni. 6, Amelia Moule for Loughborough Uni. 7, Anna Farr for the City of Leicester. Jessica Lee of Notts Leander is in 8. 9 is Elle Price for Chesterfield. And this one a lot more spearheaded. That means the centre lanes are leading. 5 seems to have the slightest of advantages over 4. Mia Slevin enters on a 57 flat, and she will certainly be wanting to get into tonight's final and get into a decent lane, and she should have done enough to get there. 58.06, so not the fastest time we've seen. In fact, almost a second outside Sophie de Groot's 57.09 from the last heat, which was really quick. Amy Davies is second, and Iona Colbert is third. Both of those with 59 points, 59.1 for Davies, 59.14 for Colbert. Only 4 100ths between second and third. As we come on to our final heat for the 100 freestyle. This should be the fastest. It has Harriet Rogers of Loughborough Uni in lane 4. She enters on a 56.01. Will she go that fast here? Anna Tyers for Derby Excel in 0. Charlotte Hall for Derby Excel in 1. 2, Hannah Hodgkiss for Repton. 3, Maria Romanoshka for Repton. 4, Harriet Rogers for Loughborough Uni. 5, Clementine Lavelle for Loughborough Uni. Scarlett Orchard of Loughborough Uni in 6. 7, Henrietta Diamassa for Repton. 8, Ellie Tennant for Derby Excel. 9, Harriet Oxley for Repton. Well, Harriet Rogers won the Priority Paris final at British Champs a few weeks ago. That Priority Paris means under 23, so she was the fastest under 23 there. She wasn't the fastest to 50 metres though. That was Rogers' fastest to 50 metres, but only 3 100s between her and Romanoska. Romanoska is really giving her a run for her money here as they come into the wall practically at the same time. Which one was there first, though? Rogers, 57.20. Still not the fastest time into the final. Maria Romanovska second, 57.33, 58.81 for Scarlet Orchard. All of these really good times. But we do have to go back to Heat 8 and Lane 8 of Heat 8 to find our fastest time into tonight's final. 57.09. 57.2 from Rogers there is only 11/100ths outside of that. So we should be in for an interesting 17 years and over 100 freestyle final this evening. Moving on events now, we come to the men's 100 metres butterfly. 8 swimmers in this first heat. 1 is Max Davies for Worksop. 2, Cole Johnson for Radford. Jacob Breers for Deepings in free. 4, Lucas Granville for Nova Centurion. 5, Ryan Norton for Boston. 6 is Christopher Oliver for Long Eaton. 7, Adrian Fitzgibbon for the City of Lincoln. 8 is Kian Saville for Daventry. Again, 2 para swimmers in this first heat. Max Davies in 1 swimming as an S9 swimmer, and Kian Saville in lane 8 swimming in the S10 category. Those classifications represent the level of impairment that these swimmers have. The most basic way to understand it is that an S10 swimmer is not as impaired as an S1 swimmer, and it works that way through. So S1 swimmers are the most impaired, S10 swimmers have less impairment than an S9 swimmer, so on and so forth as you make your way through the categories. Into the final few metres of this first heat, and it's going to be a fairly clear win from lane 6 on that one. Christopher Oliver is first into the wall in a 66.71. Ryan Norton is second, and Lucas Granville is third. All those swimmers swimming under those entry times in the top 3 at least. Oliver 66.71. Well, that's down from a 69.33. So looking at 3 seconds worth of improvement on his entry time, which he will have to be pleased with. Entry time, of course, doesn't always equal PB. Where possible, I've gone and found some of the swimmers' PBs. However, it would take an awfully long time to try and access all of those. So sometimes I will refer to just the entry time, which may be their PB, but it will depend on when it's swum. Kian Saville swimming his last few metres to finish his event, enters on a 1:59 flat. His finish time might be a little bit outside of that entry at 2:20.45 for the Daventry swimmer. And moving on now to heat number 2. Full set of 10 swimmers in this heat. 0, Andrew Edgar for Chesterfield. Lewis Wall of Kimberley in 1. Sam Mesa for Repton in 2. Lewis Cottrell for the City of Leicester in 3. 4, Lewis Fitch for the City of Leicester. 5, Jared Collins for Nova. 6 is Joshua Clark for Grantham. 7, Jamie Love for Nova. 8 is Daniel Doyle for Kettering. 9, James Plenderleaf for Corby. Approaching the halfway turn, and 5, Jared Collins is going to lead into that by a stroke on Joshua Clark in 6. 29.30 for Collins at 50. And now 25 to go. Joshua Clark keeping with Jared Collins. That's 6 keeping with 5. And now 15 left. Lewis Fitch starting to pull through in 4, and also Lewis Cottrell in 3. This could go any of about 4 different ways as the swimmers all come into the wall together. It is Joshua Clark that does that first. 64.68 for Joshua Clark from lane 6. Lewis Fitch is second. He wasn't in the running at halfway, but really came through on the last few metres to finish on a 64.79. And then 104.94 for Jared Collins puts him in 3rd position. Those 3 swimmers all entered on 64 point, apart from actually the winner there, Joshua Clark, who was in on a 65. Now we are on to Heat 3, and Harry McKerney for Sutton is in 0, Finn Reid for Loughborough in 1, Lane Keyworth for Bassett Law in 2, Alex Sadler for South Links is in 3, 4, Thomas Hebbelston for the City of Lincoln, 5, Joe Damon for Braunston, 6 is Jack Bignell for Northampton, 7, Amantethi for Rushton, Noah Van Hoobeck for Chesterfield is in 8, 9 is Alfie Bisbee for South Links. We've seen some swimmers already swim very well on the outside. We saw fastest qualifier into a final from lane 8 in one of our previous heats. This time, lane 8 swimming well again. Noah Van Hoobeek for Chesterfield did have an early lead, but dropping back now on the final few metres. This could come, though, from lane 1 or lane 3 or lane 9. It is the outside lanes in contention, though it's 3 there first. 62.78 for Alex Sadler. And that is well underneath his entry time. A good 2.5 or so. Alfie Bisbee is 3rd with a 103.13. And that was from lane 9. And then Finn Reid is 3rd. Moving on to heat number 4. Zero is Oliver Rand for Carlton Forum, Oliver Henshaw for Belpermarlin in 1, Harry Pawson for Notts Leander in 2, Albert Mulshire for Rushton in 3, 4, Flynn Mulligan for Repton, Connor Byron for Notts Leander in 5, 6, Guillermo Sierra Ville for Chesterfield, Owen Hathaway for Grantham in 7, 8 is Thomas Beach for Bramcote, 9 is Tyler Holland for the City of Leicester. Well, a huge lead for lane 6. Guillermo Ville swimming for Chesterfield over at halfway with a 28.13, and he has a body length on the rest of the pool. If he can continue this lead, he will do very well for himself indeed, swimming as an 18-year-old. So we'll be in the 17 years and over age group for a final. A lot of swimmers have caught him, though, on the final few metres, and he's not into the wall first. It's Mulshire from Rushton in lane 3. 102.36 for him. Owen Hathaway is second with a 102.66. Henry Pawson just behind, and Ville, with that early lead of over a body length, is pushed into 4th position in heat 4. And moving on now to heat number 5. Lane 0 is Jack Taylor for Leicester Sharks. 1, Laurel Roberts Burrell for Notts Leander. In 2, Oscar Goldsmith for South Links. 3, James Lake for Loughborough. 4, James Dobney for Grantham. 5 is Oliver Stone for Ripley. 6, Harry Milne for Repton. 7, Curtis Minnie for Kettering. 8 is Joseph Greaves for Notts Leander. And 9 is Jensen Ward for Notts Leander. Another para swimmer in this 5th heat. Joseph Greaves swimming as an S14 swimmer. That means that he has an intellectual impairment. And Harry Milne takes heat number 5 of the 100 butterfly in a 101.49, 101.8 for James Dobney. And then Laurel Roberts Burrell, 102.17 to come in third place. None of these swimmers in Heat 5 had entered below a 101, and bearing in mind that we've already seen some 101s, it shows that these swimmers in the 100 fly are swimming pretty quick this morning. As we go on to Heat 6. Zero is Kieran Howard for Radford, Malachi McGuinness for Bassett Law in 1. 2, Thomas Bruce for South Links. 3, Aaron Warren for Northampton. 4 is Sebastian Ebanks for Derby Excel. 5, Ewan Cox for the City of Lincoln. 6 is Alex Keeble for Leicester Sharks. 7 is Thomas Summer for Hinckley. 8 is Luke Waterfall for Ripley. 9, Eden Rowe for Northampton. And apologies to Malachi McGuinness, whose name I got slightly wrong when rattling through those names. 15 to go of Heat 6. And difficult to pick a winner from this one. 4 and 5 looking strong. It could be either of these two as they approach the wall almost stroke for stroke. Is it going to be Ebanks in 4, Cox in 5? Into the wall at practically the same time. Cox is there first, 101.04 compared to Ebanks 101.16. So only 12 100ths of a second between first and second, and almost into the 1 minute point swims. Thomas Summer was third in Heat 6. Heat 7 marks the first of our cyclically seeded heats. Sam Tucker in lane 4 is the third fastest into the competition. Jacob Lee from the City of Leicester is in 0. 1 is Oliver Osborne for Derby Excel, and then Loughborough Uni have Max Upton in 2, Daniel Jenkins in 3, Samuel Tucker in 4, Joshua Go in 5, Ruben West in 6. Helpful for them to put them all in the middle like that. Daniel Owen-Nichols of Nova Centurion is in 7, Jacob Mills for the City of Leicester in 8, and Joseph Parnell for the City of Lincoln goes in lane 9. Well, first over was Ruben West in lane 6, 27.07. I apologise, he was second over because 26.96 for Joshua Go in 5, put him a tenth of a second ahead, and Joshua Go now starting to pull ahead. Most of the swimmers here are 17 years and over into the finish, and it is Go in 5 that gets there first, 57.23, and you can see that the big boys just got in the pool because those times have tumbled from where they were in the previous heat. 57.23 for Go is almost a full second ahead of Sam Tucker, his teammate in second position, and sets the standard for the lads in Heat 8. 57.23 was that fastest time from the heat before. 0 in this one is Carl Merriweather for Radford, Sam Cook of Corby in 1, Lewis Warner for Notts Leander in 2, Liam Dawson for Derby Excel in 3, 4 Jake Hutchinson for the City of Leicester, 5 is Adam Metcalf for Loughborough Uni, 6 Leo Pollock for Repton, 7 Callum Kettlewell for Bassett Law, 8 is Ezra Lambert for Repton, 9 is Oliver Silver for Radford. No lane 5 in this heat actually. Did not start. It looked like lane 3 was over first. Liam Dawson in a 27.03. That's a little bit slower than the fastest split we saw in the last heat, but not a lot slower. Only 0.1 or something difference. And Jake Hutchinson trying to stick with Liam Dawson. Hutchinson, of course, enters on the faster time, 55.12 for the 17-year-old City of Leicester swimmer. He's going to be touched out here, I think, though. No, he isn't. Jake Hutchinson's there first. 56.79 and 56.73 for Jake Hutchinson. 56.79 for Liam Dawson. Leo Pollock is third with a 58.02. So only six 100ths of a second between those two swimmers. 56.73 is the new standard to meet if you want to qualify fastest. And there were two 56s in there as well. Final heat is go then of the 100 metres fly. Joseph Kingsland of Nova is in 0. 1. George Moore for the City of Leicester. 2. Bradley Cox for Notts Leander. 3. Thomas Sansom for Loughborough Uni. Luke Ibbison of Loughborough Uni is in 4. 5. Elliot Day for the Uni of Notts. 6 is Rico Bringeman for South Links. Mario Vasconcelos Blanche for Northampton in 7. 8. Tom Truman for Nova. 9. Ryan Coles for Rushden. Elliot Day in lane 5 was 4th at regionals last year. Luke Ibbiston swam this event at the British Champs and he just missed out on qualifying for a final, and the time he set at Champs was 55.50, so he was a little bit off his time there because he's entered on a 54.95. He finishes the race on a 55.83, which is easily the fastest time, and the fastest time into tonight's final by almost a full second. Second comes from Thomas Sansom with a 57.9, so we've just seen Luke Ibbison win that heat by almost 2 clear seconds. Elliot Day was third. And after 9 great heats of the 100 fly, we now have the women's 200 backstroke. So this time 4 lengths of the pool for these swimmers. It's going to take quite the swim to beat Luke Ibbiston, I think, in tonight's final for the 100 fly. The 100 free final, though, well, that's wide open. And of course, as well as the finals that we have in the open age group, which are the ones that I'll be referring to more, the 17 years and over finals, there are a 15 years and just a 15 years final, and also a 16 years final. So there'll be 3 finals in each event. And ready to go now with the 200 backstroke. Sometimes a bit of a delay in starting these backstroke events as the officials grapple with the backstroke start devices brought in a few years ago now. Allow the swimmers to maximise their starting potential and try to prevent the risk of slipping on the wool. A part of the swimmer's foot, though, must make contact with the pad, and you'll see When the swimmers jump in and get set on the wall, the officials will look over and they'll make sure that the swimmers' toes are actually making contact with the pad. When this swim does get underway, there will be 3 swimmers. Lily Hamilton for South Links will go in 3. Sarah Dew for Oadby will go in 4. And 5 will be Hannah Pascoe for Nova Centurion. And hopefully they will be ready to go in just a moment's time. 2 15-year-olds and a 16-year-old will go in this first heat. Expected times around the 2:40 mark. Lily Hamilton with a 2:41.10. Sarah Dew with a 2:40.20. Hannah Pascoe with a 2:40.80. And away we are now with our first heat. .25 metres down, and Pascoe of Centurion leads from the off. Second fastest, of course, into this. First heat of the 200 backstroke. She is over first in a 37.74. 39.6 for Sarah Den puts her second. Lily Hamilton is third in a 40.3. As I said, 2 15-year-olds on the outside, and then Sarah Dew in the centre, 16 years of age. South Links in 3, Obi and Wigston in 4, Nova Centurion in lane 5. And Dew turns first by a fair margin now, 118.9 for the Nova swimmer. Sarah Dew second in a 1:21.78 at halfway, and clear water between her and the 2 swimmers in lanes 4 and 3. And 50 metres to go of this first heat. Hannah Pascoe lead slipping ever so slightly, over in a 2:02.25, 2:06.20 at halfway for Sarah Dew. I said it was slipping, but now we're on to the real closing stages, the last 15 metres starting to pull further away from the rest of the pool. Pascoe is going to take this first heat without any trouble, really. Hasn't seemed under pressure at any stage. Finish time is 2:44.77, and second came from 3, 2:49.04. third came from free, 2:49.04. There was a time that got added in there for Sarah Dew, who came second in a 2:46.6. We now go to Heat 2. Full set of 10 swimmers in this second heat of the 200 backstroke. Zero is Daniela Bringeman for South Links. Abby Tunnicliffe for Derby Excel goes in 1. Charlotte Byron for Melton Mowbray in 2. Charlotte Hodgin for the City of Lincoln in 3. 4. Isabel Brailsford for Derby Excel. Imogen Stamp for Radford in 5. Mimi Fisher for Ripley in 6. 7 is Lola Harmshaw for Radford. 8. Isabel McCall for Gainsborough. And Grace Grinrod of Northampton goes in lane 9. Over at halfway, lane 4 was there first. Isabel Brailsford in a 35.90. But being caught a little bit by lane 5, Imogen Stamp, swimming for Radford. Very much on her heels, though I think that Brailsford should be all right, provided she can maintain this pace down the second 100. Halfway split then, 1:15.34 for Brailsford, 1:16.12 for Stamp, so a fair chunk of time between those two, almost a full second, about 0.7 of a second between the two swimmers. .50 metres to go, and I said that Brailsford would be okay if she could maintain the speed. So far so good, though Stamp is closing that gap now, less than half a second between the two with their 50 metre splits. 1:56.15 for Brailsford, 1:56.57 for Stamp, and we approach the finish. I think that Brailsford should get there first. She absolutely does by a couple of strokes in the end. Brailsford takes it in 2:35.75. Imogen Stamp is second in 2:37.27, and third is Abby Tunnicliffe in 2:38.21. And seeing those times completely drop. Should be moving to heat 3 in just a moment. That last heat, so far in the first two, we've not seen anybody swimming in the 17 years or over age group. That is about to change. This heat, the last of the normally, in inverted commas, seeded heats, so these are not cyclically swum. The next 3 heats following this will be the cyclical ones. Isabel Wright of Long Eaton goes in 0. Elizabeth Palfrey for Loughborough in 1, Lucy Cadden for Derby Excel in 2, Alexandra Hallam-Stott for Grantham in 3, 4, Kate Pearson for Chesterfield 5, Erin Gent for Repton, Evie Farrar of Notts Leander in 6, 7 is Matilda McGrath for Braunston in 8, Ruby Waring for Louth, and Julia Joswiak of the City of Leicester goes in lane 9. Well, first, actually, at that that's not that halfway stage, it's at 200, apologies. Isabel Wright for Long Eaton, 33.95 over in lane 0. That's the first time I've seen 0 leading anything off so far this meet. Of course, we're only not even an hour into it yet. Being caught, though, I think, at halfway, I don't think that Isabel Wright in lane 0 will be over first. No, lanes 4 and 5 starting to really pull through. Kate Pearson in 4, Erin Gent in 5. Both turn in a 111, 111.15 for Gent in lane 5. 4, Kate Pearson with a 111.42. So lane 5 leads lane 4 by, well, 0.3 of a second. So not a huge deal. Certainly either of these two could take heat 3, turning for 50. Again, it's going to be Gent in 5 over first, 150.53. That lead now extended to almost half a second as Pearson turns in 151 flat. Pearson enters, the only one that enters this heat, in a sub 2:30 swim. 2:29.76 is her entry time. 2:30 flat for Erin Gent in lane 5. So interesting now to see that Pearson in 4 has pulled ahead of Gent in the last few. So you can see that she's clearly a 200 specialist. 2:29.43 for Pearson. Second, 2:30.01 for Gent. Finishes just over 0.52, just over half a second, so 0.52 of a second ahead, behind Katie Pearson. Isabel Wright third in a 2:36.07, so 6 seconds separating second from third. It really was about those two swimmers in the lead, and Pearson knew exactly what she needed to do to go sub 2:30, it seems, dipping right underneath that marker and setting a time faster than her entry time. Erin Gent 2:30.01, entered on a 2:30 flat. That probably is a conversion time, so most likely that'll be a best time or very close for Erin Gent. As I say, really gave Pearson a run for her money there. Only lost that heat really on that last 50. First of our cyclical heats now, heat 4. 0 is Katie Taylor for Chesterfield. Ashley Green of Repton is in 1. Amelia Chescheek for Northampton in 2. Madeline Soper for the Uni of Nottingham in 3. 4, Nellie Kinch for the Uni of Nottingham. 5, Kate Morris for Nova Centurion. Rachel Webb of Bassett Law is in 6. 7, Rose Dickerson for Nova Centurion. Amreen Sanghera for the City of Leicester in lane 8. 9 is Francesca Hallam-Stott for Grantham. Just potential technical hitch being remedied before these swimmers take their marks and leave the blocks. A little bit difficult sometimes for me to bring you the most up-to-date information on in terms of what is going on in the pool. I've been placed in a cupboard from which I bring this commentary, so I can't actually see the pool. What I really should have done is just stayed at home and talked into a microphone from there. I'm sure Aaron could have sorted that out for me. I've already given you the swimmers and their clubs, so little else left to say really, other than, as I mentioned before, this the first cyclical heat, meaning that lane 4, Nelly Kinch, is our third fastest seed, and it means, of course, that as we saw in the men's 100 fly, as soon as we hit those last 3 cyclical heats, the times just plummeted. They went from 1 minute points to 56 points in a transition of a heat, so you can really see the difference that this type of seeding makes. And of course the reason that we reseed the heats in this way, that the last 3 heats are seeded differently, is to make the finals that bit more interesting. Otherwise, if you just ran it as normal all the way through, then the last heat would be exactly the same as the final, and it would seem almost pointless to run the final as well. So I said that you expect lane 4 always to do better in the cyclical heats than you would expect them to do in any other heat, though lane 5 was over first at halfway. Kate Norris of Nova, 1:08.86, puts her 0.3 or so ahead of Nelly Kinch, who went a 1:09.13 to 100. The difference between these two swimmers on paper is like 3 seconds, so really Nelly Kinch should have this heat and should have it easily, but it would take quite the final 50 for her to be caught here. Lane 3 is also ahead of Nelly Kinch, Madeline Soper, that is, for the Uni of Nottingham, those two teammates in 3 and 4. But it's not about either of those two at the moment. It is all about lane 5. Kate Morris of Nova is well ahead of the rest of the pool here. As Nelly Kinch drops back, Madeline Soper pulls into second position. First into the wall is Kate Morris, 2:21.67. Second was Madeline Soper with a 2:23.72. A couple of seconds behind. So 2:21.67 is that time to qualify fastest for the final, the time that anybody else in this pool might want to set. And we're coming into Heat 5 now. So lane 0 is Grace Turner for Grantham. Eleanor Broughton for Repton is in 1. 2, Alice Kerslake for Uni of Nottingham. 3, Millie Wells for the City of Leicester. 4, Iona Colbert for Nova Centurion. Holly Marshall for Repton is in 5. 6, Anna Farrow for the City of Leicester. 7, Alice Streeter for the City of Leicester. Macy Walton for the City of Leicester is in 8. 9 is Millie King for Derby Excel. Or turning it halfway, Millie Wells was there first. From lane 3, it seemed, from my information at least. And Wells continues to lead from that third lane. Enters on a 2:17.90, away behind Iona Colbert's 2:11.20 entry time. And Colbert is coming for her. And now coming into the final few, will this be Colbert? Sorry, will this be Marshall in 5? Or will it be Wells in 3 who gets to the wall first? My money is on Millie Wells in lane 3. Touches first in a 2:19.29, 2:19.65 for Holly Marshall. Iona Colbert is third with a 2:22.6. So 2:19.29. Well, that is now the fastest time in. However, Millie Wells is only 16 years of age, so she will go into the 16 years final. Holly Marshall, she's 17, so she will go into that 17 years and over final with a 2:19.65. So that becomes our fastest time for the main final. However, very fast for Millie Wells, and I'd be surprised if any 16-year-olds are able to go much quicker than a 2:19.2. And we go to our final heat of the 200 backstroke. This is heat number 6. Final heat is underway. Beatrice Finch of South Links is in 0. B. Jones for the City of Leicester in 1. Elise Collins for Chesterfield in 2. 3. Rose Gubbins for Nova Centurion 4. Honey Osrin for Loughborough Uni in 5. Lucy Hitchin for Repton. Holly Robinson for Repton is in 6. 7. Chloe Goodridge for Northampton. 8 is Darcy Platts for the City of Leicester. 9 is Ruby Credland for Bassett Law. Do apologise. We have been made aware that some of the graphics earlier might have not been showing the correct times on the results screen. We think that we've rectified the problem, but if you do notice any issues, please do just add it to the chat on the side, and we will try and pick those up as and when we see them. Honey Osrin is the fastest into this heat. She came 7th in the A final at the British Champs, so top swimmer here is Osrin, swimming for Loughborough Uni. Enters on a 2:09 flat, but that's a conversion time. 2:15.33 was the time she swam at British Champs to come 7th. However, if she had swum her best time, which is 2:10.30, she would have actually won the 200 backstroke at Champs. So certainly a very capable swimmer is Osrin, over 1:41.01 with 50 metres to go, and she has a body length on Lucy Hitchin in lane 5. Certainly not going to be caught. Hitchin, though, did win this competition in 2022. And I'm sure she'd like to do the same again if possible. Osrin is over first to 15.39 is, wow, it's only 0.06 outside the time she did in the final of British Championships. So we could see an even faster swim from her this evening. Lucy Hitchin is second with a 2:17.41. And Holly Robinson is third. We'll be moving on to the men's 400 IM. After that, we got the women's 50 fly, and then finishing off the session with the men's 200 breaststroke. But the men's 400 IM is first on the order paper. Well, we believed that we had rectified the issues with the graphics. However, on closer inspection, it appears they have gone a little bit doolally. So we will try and rectify that during the 400 IM if we can. And we'll have a deeper look into it between the sessions. Some of the technology that we have to use to bring you those can be a little bit challenging to fiddle with. So please do accept our apologies for that. Lucas Granville is in lane 3 for Nova Centurion. Finley Gibson for the City of Leicester is in 4. And 5 is Ethan Ford for the City of Leicester. Sure, I don't need to tell anybody listening on this stream just how challenging a 400 IM can be. Easily considered the most challenging event on the program. However, some swimmers really do enjoy swimming it and really flourish swimming in the 400 IM. Well, no doubt in anybody's mind about the leader of this first heat of the 400 IM. Ethan Ford from the City of Leicester enters on a 5:14.00. That will probably be a converted time. You can usually tell them because they always end in 0.0. Of course, swimmers can swim 0.0. However, if you see that the time ends 0.00, more often than not, at an event like this, it is because the time has been converted. Finley Gibson from the City of Leicester is in second position in lane 4, and Nova Centurion's Lucas Grenville swims in lane 3. He's sat in third at the moment. 150 metres to go. 1 length breaststroke, and 2 of them will be freestyle. Gibson starting to catch up with Ethan Ford. Two teammates in 4 and 5. It would take a very big swim from Gibson on the back end of this 4IM in order to potentially catch him, though. It would take a really, really big swim indeed. And into the final 100, well, into the final 100. Ethan Ford is going to take this heat very, very comfortably indeed. Nobody really anywhere near him. Finley Gibson caught up with him a little bit on the breaststroke leg, but now that we are away onto the freestyle, he's just pulling further and further away from him. 5:14.00, as I said, was that entry time. He's not going to be far away from that now. He should be actually pretty much on that. We will see as he comes into the wall exactly how close he gets to his entry time. 5:06.81, so absolutely smashing through his entry time. Second, Finley Gibson, 5:14.69. And third, of course, coming from Lucas Granville. And we move on to heat number 2. Well, lane 0 on the second heat is Noah Van Hubreek for Chesterfield. In 1 is Samuel Leverage for Calverton and Bingham. Alfie Bisbee for South Links in 2. 3, Finley Caudle for Repton. 4, Rico Bridgman for South Links. 5, Luke Stevens for the City of Leicester. 6, Joseph Mulligan for Bramcote. 7, Oliver Oxley for the City of Leicester. In 8, Callum Quirk for Notts Leander. And 9 is Oliver Stone for Ripley. Because there are only 4 heats in the 400 IM, this is the first that we have cyclically seeded, because there's only this and then 2 more heats to go. So the last 3, this is one of those. And because of that, Rico Bridgman is the 3rd fastest seed into this event. Enters on a 4:36.41. And just to put into context the difference between him and Luke Stevens in 5, well, he enters on a 4:44.60. So we're looking at 8 seconds of difference between these two swimmers in the centre. We would expect Bridgman to win this with ease. I said that Bridgman should take this with ease, but this breaststroke leg seems to have already become a bit of an equaliser, with Caudle starting to pull alongside him in 3, and Stevens in 5 starting to make up a bit of ground here too. It is still Bridgman over first, and I imagine as soon as he gets onto the freestyle, he will be very comfortable, but at the moment, under pressure from either side. And 100 metres to go now. Bridgman is still over first after the breaststroke. 3:41.55 for him. Caudle was their second. 3:44.85. And 3:44.16 for Stevens. Which means, actually, my apologies, that Stevens was their second. It is certainly these three swimmers, and I did say that Bridgman would be safe as soon as he was onto the freestyle. Quite the race going on between Caudle in 3 and Stevens in 5. But no doubt at all about the fact that it is now going to be Bridgman, and Bridgman fairly comfortably under a little bit of pressure on the breaststroke leg, but overall he does finish first without too much trouble. It's a 4:46.53 for Rico Bridgman. Second is Luke Stevens. Third is Finlay Caudle. And the last few swimmers approaching the wall. Just waiting on lane number 9. And we're moving now onto the third heat of the 400 IM. Jack Bignell of Northampton goes in 0. Harrison Clark for Nova in 1. James Lake for Loughborough in 2. Samuel Cook for Corby in 3. 4 is Thomas White for Nova Centurion. Adam Wilson for Loughborough Uni is in 5. 6 is Paul Page for City of Leicester. 7, Luke Geel for Nova Centurion. 8 is Daniel Harris for the City of Leicester. 9, Sam Gray for Northampton. Well, as I said, we are into the cyclical heats, which means that Thomas White in 4 would be expected to win this and to win it by a fair way. But unless he has something massive to give on this breaststroke leg, I don't know that we're going to see that here. Adam Wilson in 5. Leading things at the moment. He enters on a 4:42.20. Samuel Cook is just about over second, but that's very tight between those two. Very, very tight indeed. I did say it would take something special on the breaststroke for Thomas White to come back. He's certainly moved from 3rd into a comfortable 2nd position based purely off this breaststroke swim. And he is now chasing Adam Wilson down. Will he be able to catch him here? Both of these swimmers a long way now ahead of Sam Cook in 3, who was out in front at one point. Still going to take a fantastic last 50 if Thomas White wants to catch Adam Wilson here. Maybe he doesn't. 4:12.07 for Wilson, 4:14.21 for Thomas White, so 2 seconds between it. There's no way that Thomas White is going to catch Adam Wilson here. Wilson led pretty much from the off and is going to take this heat by a body length or so still. White did come through in the breaststroke, but not enough to catch Adam Wilson and not enough to take this 4th heat. It's a 4:44.53 for Adam Wilson. Thomas White is 2nd with a 4:47.32. 4:55.67 puts Sam Cook in 3rd place. As we go to heat number 4, our final heat of the 400 IM. Zero in this one is Man of Mystery for Northampton. Luke Chambers of Nova Centurion is in 1. 2 Archie Dandy for the City of Leicester. 3 is Alex Keeble for Leicester Sharks. In 4, Charles Kershaw for Loughborough Uni. 5, Elliot Sibley for Nova Centurion. 6, Daniel Walker for Nova Centurion. 7, Oscar Goldsmith for South Links. 8 is Owen Halfway for Grantham. 9 is Lewis Fitch for the City of Leicester. Charles Kershaw won this event in 2022. So last year when we were at Sheffield, he took gold in the 400 IM at the regional championships. The time he did then was 4:30.01. That is his lifetime best time as well. So anything under 4:30.01 would be a best for Charles Kershaw. 4:35.30 was the time he swam at Champs in April.
So just to let you know, at the end of this event, there will be a test start for the 50-metre end. Just the technical people moving at speed, so there's a little bit of sorting out to do. That's in the black, Jeff. Don't worry, you won't much moving speed. Sorry? Yeah, no. Yeah, right. Running to the technical operations facility. So final heat then. On to last 100. Charles Kershaw. University of Midland. 789 from 10 metres to run here.
Well, closing stages of this 400 IM final heat. Kershaw is well ahead of the rest of the pool, and considering he has that 4:30 time in him, imagine going 4:30.01. I'm sure that he will want to, if he possibly can, drop under that 4:30 mark. Just depends whether he is on form or not. Turning now with 50 metres to go. What was that split? 4:04.86. So it's not going to be on that 4:30 kind of pace, but still a long old way ahead of the rest of the pool here. It's going to take quite some swim to beat Kershaw, to knock him off the title of reigning champion in this event at the regional championships. He touches first in a 4:38.25. He has more to give if he so chooses in the final tonight. And I mean, if you're swimming a 400 IM, then you've got to really put in a heat swim. It's a big ask to give everything you have in a heat of a 4 IM and then race the final that same evening, giving everything all over again. So if Kershaw has saved himself there, I cannot blame him.
Next event, 105, women's 15 and over.
Second on that one was Elliot Sibley in a 4:49. And then Archie Dandy was third in a 4:55.81.
So there will be a test start in a moment. Thank you, sir. Please clear the pool by the sides. Thank you. Out you go.
These starts, of course, will come from the other end of the pool.
Let's get serious now. We've got one out of the office.
And we have 10 heats of the girls 50 fly to get through.
Heat
first three swimmers in this first heat. Rowan White of Rushton goes in 3. 4, Erin Ingham for Louth. 5, Chloe Powell for Rushton. All enter on a 32-7. 7-0 for Ingham, 7-1 for Powell, 7-8 for White. And the difference in times that we'll see between these swimmers will be next to nothing. And you can see that 3 swimmers practically stroke for stroke as they approach the wall. 3 might get this. That is Rowan White. She does in a 32.43. So underneath her entry time, Erin Ingham, 32.99, drops just underneath 33 seconds. 33.2 for Chloe Powell to come third. As we move to Heat 2 for these swims, I am going to have to try and read some of the names out before the swimmers have actually got in the water, because otherwise we're not going to get through them before they get to the end of the pool. Charlotte Hodgin for the City of Lincoln goes in 1. Winifred Owen for the City of Lincoln in 2. Ava Buxton for Notts Leander in 3. 4, Bailey Carter for Eckington. 5, Emma Ran for Nova Centurion. 6, Isla Perry Taylor for Balfour-Marlin. 7, Caitlin Butters for Bassett Law. And 8 is Evelyn Jackson for Bassett Law. A little bit more varied on the times in this heat, from a 32.4 up to a 32.7. I say a little bit more varied. There's only 0.3 of a second or so between. That is the only difference between those swims. And again, very difficult, as all of these 50s are going to be, to call. 4 looks strong. That is Bailey Carter for Eckington, as you'd expect 4 to win these heats. Does Buxton get there first? No, it's Bailey. Sorry, it is Bailey Carter there first in 4, 31.7. Second was Winifred Owen in 32.11, and third Ava Buxton in a 32.15. But Bailey Carter, our first swimmer, drops under 32 seconds, 31.78. And this third heat, we're seeing all the swimmers in that kind of region. Marissa Lee of Notts Leander in 0, Harriet Dickerson for Nova Centurion in 1, Neve Burstein for Carlton Forum in 2, Georgie Reynolds for Repton in 3, Emma McLean for Rushton in 4, Lily Rose Smith for Radford in 5, Erin Lee for Nova Centurion in 6, Ruby Waring for Louth in 7, Neve Ping for Bassett Law in 8, Charlotte Byron for Malta Mowbray in lane 9. And halfway already, 5 seem to pass the halfway marker first. That's Lily Rose Smith for Radford, enters on a 31.80 and continues to lead now as we approach the final 5. She seems first into those 5 metres. Does she touch the wall first? She does. 31.47 for the Radford swimmer. Second, 32.08 for moving on now to heat number 4. Lane 0 is Jennifer Walker for Bassett Law. 1, Olivia Marshall for Derby Excel. 2, Summer York for Corby. 3 is Olivia O'Heralty for South Links. 4, Lily Tappan for Corby. 5, Evie Farrar for Notts Leander. 6 is Hannah Clay for Radford. 7, Libby Walsh for Swadlincote. 8, Tegan Gray for Gainsborough. 9, Ellie Smeaton for Uni of Nottingham. .25 left of heat 4 of the 50 fly. Lane 2, Summer York seemed to be first to 25 and swimming well into the last 5 metres as well. Could she take this from a lane near the outside? York is actually second there, 31.21 for the Corby swimmer. It's Lily Tappan, her teammate, 31.18 to make it a Corby 1-2 in Heat 4. Libby Walsh is third in a 31.57, but just 3/100ths separating Tappan from York in Heat 4. 5 is a go. 0 is Samantha Miller for Repton. Casey Cleaver of City Lincoln goes in 1. 2 is Evie Turner for Grantham. 3, Eve Turnbull for Carlton Forum. 4, Evie Wood for Raunston. 5 is Eleanor Broughton for Repton. 6, Grace Turner for Grantham. 7, Emily Wynne for City Leicester. 8, Emily Batchelor for Kettering. 9, Phoebe Barden for Belper-Marlin. Away we are with Heat 5. And this one even more difficult than some of the other heats have been so far to try and call. I think about 5 swimmers past 25 metres at exactly the same time, so almost impossible to suggest which one might get there first. 3 seems to be having a good swim. That's Eve Turnbull. But into the wall first was Eleanor Broughton from lane 5. I said any of a great number of swimmers could get there first. 31.02 for Eleanor Broughton to clock the fastest time we've seen so far. Eve Turnbull second, 31.16. And then Evie Wood third. Just noticed there was an Evie, an Eve, and an Evie in that last heat. And also an Eleanor, an Emily, and an Emily. So all the E names as we go to Heat 6. Yannick Fung for Nova is in 0. 1, Samantha Coleman for Notts Leander. 2, Poppy Mead for Derby XL. 3, Tia Gardner for Loughborough Uni. 4, Harriet Casey for Corby. 5, Connie Renard for Repton. 6, Alice Marriott for Repton. 7, Abby Ruddle for Loughborough. 8, Emily Gibbs for Radford. 9, Isabel Sharp for Northampton. 15 left to go. Outside lanes looking strong. Yannick Fung in 0. Isabel Sharp in 9. Could be someone from 2, 3. Any number of swimmers really could have got to that wall first. It was 2. Poppy Mead, in a 30.45 takes the touch. First swim we've seen under 31 seconds. Abby Ruddle is second with a 30.98, so 2 sub-31s. And Alice Marriott with a 31 flat takes third. We go to Heat 7 with Grace Wingham of Kettering in 0. Sophie Baker for Chesterfield in 1. Mia Copping for Lincoln Vulcans in 2. Elise Kendall for Corby in 3. Rose Dickerson for Nova in 4. Olivia Beard for Nova in 5. Rosie Smith for the Uni of Nottingham in 6. Rebecca Darrington for Radford in 7. Amy Willits for Melton in 8. Alexandra Bulett for the City of Lincoln in 9. Lane 9 was first to 25 metres. Alexandra Bulett, can she maintain that through the wall here? It will be very impressive to take Heat 7 from the outside, but we shall see who hits the pad first. Into the wall go the swimmers, and it is Bulett there first, 30.30. We're still going quicker each and every heat. Mia Copping is second with a 30.42. That was quicker than anything we've seen so far as well. Rose Dickerson third, 30.56. 3 more heats to go, which means it is cyclical seeding time. Arabella Green for Repton in 0. Iona Colbert for Nova in 1. Jessica Lee for Leander in 2. Asia Coe for Derby in 3. Constance Phillips for Nova Centurion in 4. Emma Crocker for South Links in 5. Katie Founds for the City of Lincoln in 6. 7, Olivia Hunter for the City of Leicester. 8, Olivia Anstey for Louv. And 9 is Mia Matthews for Northampton. Got through all of those before they've even got up on the blocks. Constance Phillips, third fastest in 27.78 entry time. And just to show how close they are, the next fastest we'll see in the next heat, Clementine Lavelle, 27.70, just 8/100ths on paper separating these two. Harriet Rogers in 4. In the final heat, she's the fastest in. She's only 27.2, so less than a second separating the top 3 or so swimmers in this competition. We are seeing Constance Phillips here with a commanding lead. She is going to get to the wall first without too much trouble at all. The time that she clocks is a 28.66. Second, Emma Crocker with a 28.92. Third, Katie Founds, 29.31. So 28.66. Now the time to beat. 0 in Heat 9. It's Macy Walton for the City of Leicester. Derby Excel have Charlotte Room in 1 and Anna Tyers in 2. Anna Stansfield for Uni of Nottingham in 3. 4 Clementine Lavelle for Loughborough Uni. 5 Ellie Tennant for Derby Excel. 6 Charlotte Wright for Louth. 7 Helen Sharrett for Derby Phoenix. Derby Excel have Millie King in 8. And 9 is Katie Hammond for the Uni of Nottingham.
Lane 0, City of Leicester. Lane 1, Charlotte Room, Derby Excel. Lane 2, Anna Tyers, Derby Excel. Lane 3, Anna Stansfield, University of Nottingham. Lane 4,
25 left and very, very close between 4 and 5 at that 25-metre mark. Lavelle in 4, Tennant in 5. Could Tennant keep up with Lavelle here as Lavelle in 4 starts to pull forward on the final few? You know, Tennant could take this, I think. She's only a little bit behind. It is. We will just wait for the full confirmation of that time because, at least on my information, there we go. Clementine Lavelle's time was missing. It is 28.62. She takes the heat. 28.94 for Tennant to take second. 29.31 for Stansfield to take third. That was just the fastest, but only by 0.04 of a second. So this final tonight will be fast. 0 Alyssa Lowe for City of Leicester. 1 Katie Held for Derby Excel. B Jones for the City of Leicester in 2. Anna Farrow for the City of Leicester in 3. Harriet Rogers, Maisie Elliott and Paige Fenton, all of Loughborough Uni, go in 4, 5 and 6. 7 Grace Conroy for Repton. Maria Romanovska for Repton is in 8. 9 is Katie Maloney for Louth. Rogers fastest seed in 27.21 is her entry time. Will she be on that or off that? Needs to go faster than 28.62 if she wants to take lane 4 in tonight's final. Away we go, and Rogers is up fast and racing fast. She already has half a body length just at 25 metres, and that lead will extend now throughout the second half of this 50. It's going to be almost impossible to catch Harriet Rogers in lane 4 here. She's going to take the final heat of the 50 fly. Is it faster than 28.62? It most certainly is. 27.29 puts her over a second and a half ahead of the rest of the pool into the final. Maisie Elliott 28.50, Anna Farrow 29.15. Elliott's time there 28.50. That will put her second fastest. So we will see a repeat of this heat here with Harriet Rogers in 4, Maisie Elliott in lane 5 in the final. Of course, all of this guesstimation work If a swimmer withdraws, for example, then the lanes in the final could be entirely different. However, based on the swims that they have swum and the best information that I can provide you with at the time, it is most likely that that swimmer will be in that specific lane. Onto the 200 breaststroke then, so the splash and dash of the 50 fly into the very differently swum 200 meters breaststroke. Completely incomparable disciplines, really. Almost opposite ends of the swimming spectrum. Lane 2 in this one is Harrison Grix-White for Dronfield. Dylan Smith for Radford is in lane 3. 4, Oliver Henshaw for Belper Marlin. Ryan Norton for Boston is in 5. 6, Sebastian Tonks for Carlton Forum. 7 is Gilbert Bailey for Nottingham Leander. .200 breaststroke. Then for the men, most of the swimmers in this event are 15. The only 16-year-old is Ryan Norton in lane 5. Otherwise, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 7, all 15. And turning now for 50 metres to go. It's going to be 4 over first. Oliver Henshaw from Belper Marlin enters on a 2:52.82. Split there with 50 to go is 2:06.44. Harrison Grix-White having a good swim over in 2 and sticking with the leaders here. Other swimmers starting to come back though on this final 50. .15 metres left for Oliver Henshaw of Belper Marlin in lane 4. He's going to take this heat without too much trouble at all. Into the wall he comes. Final time, 2:49.55. Well, that's down from a 2:52, so 3 seconds worth of improvement on his entry time is not a bad start. Into the second heat of the 200 breaststroke then, and lane 0 is Loic Wrightson for Wellingborough. Mark Jourdain for Buxton is in 1. 2, Jacob Millwood for Nova Centurion. 3, Stefano Fior for South Links. 4, Cameron Bell for Rushden. 5, Jack Hughes for Lincoln Vulcans. In lane 6, we've got Christopher Oliver for Long Eaton. Aidan Fitzgibbon for the City of Lincoln goes in lane 7. 8 is Jacob Breers for Deepings. 9 Hayden Potts for Lincoln Vulcans. Over first at the top end, Cameron Bell of Rushton, 117.97 is his split time. 118.61 for the swimmer in the lane next to him, Stefano Flor, in lane 3. And Fior trying to give chase to Cameron Bell here. Can Bell fend him off? We shall see. Most swimmers in this heat are 16 years old, so of course looking to swim in that 16 years final. All 16, actually really helpfully, lane 0 to 6 is 16 and 7 to 9 are 15. So almost 2 separate races going on really in this one heat in terms of finals qualification, and that's really what these heats are all about, trying to get into a final if you possibly can. For some of the swimmers obviously in these earlier heats, it's much more about just trying to achieve a best time or whatever the target is for their individual race, but wherever possible people in a heat want to get into a final if they can. And Cameron Bell, I'm sure, will be no different, trying to get into the 16 years final. 2:44.09 is the time he's set to try and do that. That is a couple of seconds ahead of his entry time. Entered on a 2:46.21, so it's over 2 seconds of improvement for Cameron Bell to touch first there. That should put him in pretty good stead for this evening. Second, Stefano Fior. Third, Christopher Oliver. There are only 7 16-year-olds that follow that heat, so it would be very surprising if Bell doesn't make the standard for a 16 years final this evening. Heat 3 then. 0 is Aaron Johnson for Repton. Cole Stevens of Chesterfield is in 1. 2, Joseph Mulligan for Bramcote. 3 is Henry Cross for the City of Lincoln. Lane 4, Ben Harrison for Loughborough Uni. Mackenzie Cannon for Loughborough Uni is in lane 5. 6, Oliver Oxley for the City of Leicester. Nicholas Saku Pavola for Nova Centurion goes in 7. 8 is James Lake for Loughborough. 9, Lewis Cottrell for the City of Leicester. Well, there are a total of 5 heats of the 200 breaststroke, and you know what that means. This is cyclic heat number 1. And wow, very, very little between our two leaders. 110.53 for Mackenzie Cannon in 5 to turn first. 110.58 for Ben Harrison in 4 to turn second. Only 5/100ths of a second between lanes 4 and 5 at halfway. Of course, you would expect 4, because it's cyclic, to have the advantage. But turning for 150, it is now 4. Ben Harrison in the lead. The 2 Loughborough Uni swimmers in the centre of the pool. 2:18.30 entry for Harrison. 2:23.70 entry for Cannon. And you can see Harrison pulling away from his teammate now, and pulling away fast. 200 breaststroke, it's so important that you can maintain the back end. It's not just a sprint, it's not just about going out quick. You've got to have a wide range of stamina. 2:24.71 for Ben Harrison to take heat 3. 2:29.27 for Cannon. His teammate comes second. Henry Crust is third into the wall.
Results now available for event 104 and 105.
And we're moving on now to the 4 feet. Penultimate heat of the session. Heat 4 of the 200 breaststroke. Edward Bailey for Leander will go in 0. Amantethi for Rushton in 1. Harry Brancham for Bassett Law in 2. Elliot Sibley for Loughborough Uni in... Elliot Sibley for Nova Centurion in 3. Harvey Freeman for Loughborough Uni goes in 4. 5, Thomas White for Nova Centurion. In 5, Thomas White for Nova Centurion. 6 is Paul Page for the City of Leicester. 7, Oliver Richmond for Nova. In 8, Samuel Leveridge for Calverton and Bingham. And 9 is Jacob Hodgkinson for Bassett Law.
Please remember, if you are withdrawing from the finals or anything else later, you need to do that at the medals table. And we need relay team declarations by 12:30 to event control. So, for the Freeman, the fastest time by 2 seconds here.
Well, Harvey Freeman, as to be expected, a long way ahead of the rest of this pool. 2:15.30 is his entry time. This is, of course, Freeman's preferred event. The 200 breaststroke has achieved national and international success in this event. And will want to try and add a regional title to his list of achievements if possible. Callum Melville, who will be swimming in the next heat, might have something to say about that. However, just look at the amount of clear water between Harvey Freeman in lane 4 and the rest of the pool here. It's almost 10. It is more than 10 metres. What is Freeman's finish time going to be here? He's certainly gone out hard. Certainly gone out hard. Into the wall goes Harvey Freeman. Finish time is 2:18.90, and he had to do that all by himself, really. 2:18.90 is going to put him well fastest in. Consider that 2:24.71 was the fastest time we saw in the last heat. For Freeman to have just gone 2:18.9. Well, now it is over to Callum Melville in our final heat to see what can be produced there, and we'll get an idea of how fast tonight's final is going to be. Freeman certainly setting the standard. 2:18.90 now the time for these athletes to beat in the final heat of the session. Zero in this one is Max Holland for Nova Centurion. In 1, Man of Mystery for Northampton. 2 is George Burek for Grantham. Oliver Coville of the City of Leicester in 3. 4, Callum Melville for Nova. 5 is Jack Blair for Chesterfield. In 6, Aaron Flynn for Wellingborough. 7, Kieran Howard for Ricknold. Sorry, for Radford. In 8, George Cummins for Notts Leander. And 9 is Alfie Malloy for Loughborough. So Melville, our fastest qualifier into the regional championships. Unlikely that anyone would beat him, but Harvey Freeman did go out quick to 18.90. He really means business. Melville in 4, Blair in 5. Blair might have the slight lead coming into the halfway turn. Very, very close between the two swimmers. 109.79 for Melville, who does touch first. 109.98 for Blair. And these two swimmers, stroke for stroke, actually, as they come into the last 75 metres. Almost synchronised swimming happening in the centre of the pool here. Every time I think that one has an advantage over the other takes advantage instead. Again, this is going to be right down to the wire on this touch. It was Blair over first that time. 146.26 in lane 5. 146.73 in lane 4. So this is going to come down to what is to be given on the final 25 metres or so. Melville seems to be maybe a fraction of a stroke ahead of Blair, but he's going to give it everything. Jack Blair in lane 5 in order to beat Callum Melville to the wall, if at all possible, into the last 5 metres. And I can't tell from the pictures there who got there first. It was Callum Melville, 2:21.36. Jack Blair second, 2:21.42. 0.06, 6/100ths separating first from second, but neither of them coming anywhere close to Harvey Freeman's 2:18.90. That is going to be the one to watch in the final tonight. Will Freeman continue with that level of swimming into this evening? If he does, then, well, Callum Melville would have to swim something fantastic in order to win tonight's final. Anyway, that brings this session to a close. Thank you to everyone who has joined us on the live stream. Apologies for some of the little teething issues that we have had during this first stream. We're going to go and try and fix those graphics so we get the result screen coming up at the end of each race. We're also going to try and repair that GoPro just so that we are able to show you the finish cam on the start side, which broke partway through that session. But thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you for this afternoon's heats in a little while.